Boom. Okay, here we are. Welcome, everybody. I have a very special guest today. One of our very own real estate investors that are working with our agency here. We have Nick Koenen from Wisconsin. Welcome. Thanks for hopping on today and sharing some insights about your business. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Cool, man. So let's just get started. We'll dive right into it. Everybody's busy, so we try not to have a lot of fluff here in this podcast. You want to just tell us a little bit of background about yourself, your business? Are you wholesaling, flipping, things like that? What market you're in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've actually been in the real estate industry for about 6 years. My life partner, she was a big realtor in Southeast Wisconsin and still is, has a team of agents. And I actually got into the mortgage lending side of things. So I've been doing that for about 5, 6 years now, and that's kind of how we got into the flipping business. There's a story I can share with you about that if you'd like, but we've been heavily involved in real estate, and one thing led to another, and now we flip quite a few homes each year.
And which you're in Wisconsin? Is the whole state, or what part of Wisconsin are you in?
Yeah, we focused on Southeast Wisconsin, so we're right south of Milwaukee in a city called Racine, and so yeah, we usually go. I think we just picked one up about an hour and a half away, and that's about the extent of where we like to go. Just to keep the crews manageable and kind of within the area where the crews are willing to go.
And what's your volume like per? How many deals are you guys doing per year?
Yeah, I mean, so last year we flipped just over 30 houses. This year we're looking to do the same, and I'm hoping next year we can scale up to 50 plus. And I'd like to flip 120 houses in a year. That's my kind of target goal, 10 a month. I think it's a nice clean number. So that's the goal.
And you're not doing any wholesaling or buy and holding? Is it strictly just flipping?
Yep, strictly just flipping. We don't buy and hold. Really, when we go to these appointments, we talk to them. We talk to the sellers, and we kind of, because my partner's a real estate agent, we give them both options. And kind of depending on their situation, we figure out, hey, does it make more sense to list the property? In which case, she can go ahead and list it with her team. Otherwise, if the property's in kind of disrepair or they need fast money and they need a quick closing, as is cash, then we can go ahead and just purchase the home. And Yeah, that's kind of how we approach that. We come with all of the options, and I think that helps us convert more leads.
Gotcha. Okay, so do you own a brokerage yourself and you list a lot of
No,
properties, or?
so she's actually a realtor under Keller Williams right now. She's got her own business, but her own brand, but it's through
Gotcha.
Keller Williams.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. I don't hear of a lot of investors who solely do flipping. A lot of them do some flipping, some wholesaling, because I mean, a lot of the leads you generate or the margins are tight, and days on market, in certain neighborhoods is better than others, right? So, can you just walk through your decision process to have the business model, why it's set up the way that it is?
Yeah, I'm definitely not opposed to wholesaling. I think a lot, like sometimes we purchase homes from wholesalers. I think a lot of times, a lot of them are not transparent with the sellers, which I'm not a fan of. And
Yeah.
when we go to an appointment, we tell the sellers our target profit is 10 to 20% per flip. So we figure out what the property is going to be worth after renovations. We get an idea of how much those renovations will cost, and that's how we back into our offer number. And I think just being, completely transparent with them kind of disarms them, and it makes sense. We make it make sense for them. Like, hey, this is where we have to be to kind of protect ourselves and still have the ability to earn some profit. Um, and I think that helps a lot. And we did recently just try to wholesale a deal. We're not or as organized as we should be to really become wholesalers. Like we don't have a big buyers list. We brought it to
Right.
one guy we had in mind, and he wanted an inspection, so we ended up just purchasing the home. It's definitely something we might look at getting into in the future, and just tell the sellers like, hey, we might be able to get you a bit more than what we could offer if you let us bring it to one of our investors. And if they agree to it, that's something we'll do. Otherwise, we'll look at one of the other options.
So there's this terminology called wholetailing, which is basically wholesaling, but you're buying the property, just doing like a light cleanup, light cosmetic work, and then you just sell it on the MLS, and you can often make more money than actually wholesaling it. What percent of your flips that you're doing are like wholesales, where they're kind of like a light, just buy it, relist it, versus like, hey, we're gutting the place, we're doing a full renovation here?
Yeah, I'd say probably. So I think we've got 10 going right now. I think three of them are big, like big jobs, kind of full renovations, and the other seven are going to be, lighter, light to medium amount of work. So I would say, probably slightly over half. We do kind of minimal work, whether it's just replacing the floors, paints, maybe we swap out a vanity or something like that. New countertops, like in and out in a week. I would
Yeah.
say
Okay.
probably over half. And then, maybe 25 to 40%, it's quite a bit more work. Um, and so, yeah, what I tell the sellers is like, if we're going to be doing a smaller amount of work, we're more comfortable making less money, obviously, because you're going to turn it faster.
Right.
But I
Risk
think
is
the nice
lower.
thing with the approach we take is we can kind of cushion the numbers because, as I'm sure you and your listeners know, a lot of times unexpected things pop up, and maybe 1 in 10, 1 in 12 deals you don't make money on. But you can kind of build those things into the price and just explain it like, this is how it is. This is where we have to be to make it make sense for us.
Gotcha. You're probably making more money with your model than a wholesaler traditionally would. And that's something I do want to talk about. Our most successful clients have more of a similar business model to you because they're making more per deal than if you were wholesaling. Like in a way, like you flip it in a week anyway, or the cash conversion cycle isn't that much longer doing what you're doing with these lighter rehabs than wholesaling it anyway. You're probably making a fair bit more money because you're selling it to an end buyer versus selling it to a cash buyer, right, or investor. So yeah, that's great. Sounds like it's working out well for you. In terms of lead generation, I mean, so you're doing what? Yeah, 30 deals a year, 2 to 3 deals a month. Whereas obviously, you've been running PPC with us for what, 3 months ish, not super long, just a few months right now. We'll definitely bring you back on after a year for sure. We like having long term case studies, but you have some really good results, which I do want to dive into. But before that, you're obviously getting a lot of deals other ways as well. Can you break through kind of your marketing mix of the 30 deals that you did last year? What percent come from what different marketing channels?
Yeah, so we're changing it up this year where we didn't do any PPC last year. We actually kind of put a brand to our business at the end of last year, which I think you just took a look at.
Yeah.
Um, and so last year we didn't do any PPC. We called on pre-foreclosures. We worked with a good amount of wholesalers that brought us deals. This year, I think we're really trying to leverage the PPC just because it's less work. People call us usually, they're hot leads, they're motivated, and so I think our marketing strategy is definitely shifting this year. So far, I think we've closed about like 29% of the deals that have come through PPC, which I think is pretty good. And again, I think it's
You
the
mean of the
fact
leads
that
that have
my
come
partner
through,
is
or you mean,
what,
what do you mean close the 29% of the deals?
yeah, of the leads that we've gotten through PPC. Let me pull this up here quick. So
Gotcha.
to date, we've gotten 29 leads and we've closed one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. We've closed eight, and then probably nine. There's going to be a future listing that might happen later this year. We did have a couple opportunities at a couple more of those leads, but they just didn't make sense. They wanted post occupancy for too long, and but we could have closed those. So in my mind, I count as a it was a potential conversion. We just passed on it.
So that's 9 deals from 29 leads with
Yep.
PPC, which is almost 1 in 3, which
Yeah.
is insane. And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on here, and I do want to dive into that. That's my main focus here. I'm very curious about that. But just for last year, so we can give context for everybody and for myself too, I'm very curious. So you're saying the deals you did last year, you weren't doing any PPC, but you're still, 30 deals a year. I mean, that's awesome. Flips especially. Is it mainly from wholesalers, or were you doing other marketing like direct mail or cold calling or anything like that, or just
Yeah, no,
yeah?
no direct mail. We did do some cold calling. The team that my partner has of real estate agents, they came across some deals They had relationships with wholesalers. We also did some door knocking on pre-foreclosures and
Okay.
closed a handful that way. Um, and so, yeah, we I guess it was kind of from all different sources, kind of just I guess guerrilla marketing tactics. I don't know if you'd call it that, door
Yep.
knocking, calling people from lists. And definitely changing things this year though. But that's kind of how we ran things last year. I think having the team of realtors, it just opportunities just presented themselves, and we could say yes or no if we wanted them.
Did you have a clear marketing budget last year of, okay, we're spending X amount, if we're doing 2 or 3 deals a month, we're spending X amount of dollars, whether it's paying people to door knock or, VAs cold calling or whatever it is? Or was it just, let's try it and see how it goes? And it sounds like it's mainly relationship building, which doesn't really cost you money. But how do you think about marketing budget, or how did you last year?
Yeah, last year, I mean, I don't think we really spent anything on marketing. It was just the team, like you said, relationship building. And so this year, obviously, we have a budget, and we're kind of measuring our ROI. But last year, I don't think we really spent that much money on marketing our business. Like I said, we didn't even have a brand until the
Yeah,
later half of last year. We made our website, and that's where we're directing traffic to now. So this is really kind of the first year where we're investing in leads, and it's really just it's just for ease. It's I'm willing to spend money to not have to go knock on doors. You know, it's
gotcha.
yeah, it's just less headache, and it allows us to focus on the back end of the business and kind of refine that, and figure out how we can scale up from what we're
Gotcha.
doing now.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and it makes sense. I mean, flippers can get deals more easily than a wholesaler can because you can buy from wholesalers. Wholesalers can't buy from wholesalers, right? So you have a better service, and you can just get all your deals, from relationships, which makes complete sense. But to scale up, if you're trying to do 10 deals a month, probably hard to do that predictably just by making friends, right? So hence, yeah, I want to dive into a little bit the decision to, get a brand. And your website is really cool. It's Ugly Duckling Houses, right? Ugly Duckling House Buyers,
Yep,
and I love it. Can we share our screen? Can we show it? Do you mind if we
absolutely, go for it.
let's let's take for all the people who are watching this on YouTube.
Little Chat GPT for the logo. That's how we
Yeah,
put that
boom.
together.
Ugly Duckling House is here. So I love this. This is one of my favorite brands, and we talk a lot about brand and one thing investors. A lot of investors they focus on offline marketing, and you don't really need a brand, honestly, to send postcards to people. It kind of just be like, "Hey, I'm Bob. I'm buying this home." But if you really want to succeed in inbound marketing, especially doing Google Ads, you really want to have a good brand. And I think this is awesome. And ChatGPT, it was not the first thing that came to my mind. I just thought this was a really cool logo. I wasn't even like, oh, this is AI. I think it's a really clever brand. And it's super awesome. So, what kind of led you to the decision to going down this path versus doing what you're doing? So, getting a website and really thinking about or investing in a brand. What was the
Mhm.
turning point for you?
Yeah, I think we've got a really kind of stacked team, if you will. We've got a lot of expertise on our end. We have a close relationship with an appraiser, so he can really help us nail a value down on a property. And I think just really to leverage all of the expertise we have, it made sense to create a brand. And obviously, my goal was to get leads coming to us, to get the inbound leads instead of everything being outbound or relationship based. And I think in order to effectively do that, you kind of need a brand to market and to get those inbound leads. And that's really what led us down that path to make that decision and get to where
Yeah.
we are today.
So, at what point in the process did you think about doing, pay per click, right? Google Ads. Did you already know you were going to do this before you even made the website? Was it after you made the website? What was the decision making process behind that?
Yeah, I think we met with a few website builders. We decided on the one that we went with, and they actually kind of told us about the pay per click. I don't know necessarily that it
Carrot,
was
right?
always the
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
Yep, I don't know that necessarily that was always the hard plan. We did get a couple couple leads from the website, just organic SEO leads before we partnered with you guys. Um, but dude, I think it was just the next natural thing to test out, and so far it's been working. Um, but yeah, I don't think necessarily. I kind of just, one step at a time. Maybe I'm not as organized and planned out as I could be or should be, but it's been working so far.
Yeah, it's been working so far. That's the point. So,
Yep.
uh, gotcha. So, okay, so you decided, you got a website at Carrot. They said, hey, do pay-per-click marketing. It's a great way to get some quick wins right here. Okay, so you decided you want to do that. Um, how did you end up landing with us? Did you talk to some other companies? How did you find out about us? I mean, I know Carrot has a marketplace, and I'm on it as well. I used to work there, so I love them. There's somewhat of a relationship, but there's a bunch of other people on there too. So, how did you make the come to the conclusion or figure out who you wanted to work with throughout that process, or
I
even
think it
do it
was a guy at
yourself?
Carrot. Yeah, I think it was a guy at Carrot who I was working with, and I had a nice rapport with him, and he recommended you guys. So I just went with his recommendation.
Easy enough. Okay, so you didn't even talk to a lot of other
I
lead
talked
gen
to one other
providers.
company, and yeah, they sounded good too. And I think just the timing of it, his recommendation, I uh, I went with you guys.
Gotcha. The coin flip, and we'll take it, I guess, huh? Something like that.
Yep,
No.
yep.
That's funny. Okay, cool. So let me. I got a couple questions here. If you guys are looking away, I'm just looking at my phone. I try to be somewhat organized here. Okay. So, did you have any expectations going into Google Ads or concerns that you had before you started doing it?
Not really. I think the way I see it, and this is what I always tell my contractors, like you guys are the experts at this, so I'm going to lean on you. Obviously I look at the reports, our cost per lead, which direction's it going, why did it go up, how can we get it down? Is there competitors at play? And so I think I just keep an eye on kind of the analytics, but I lean on you guys as the experts to help me figure out what the solution is to make to make things to improve our metrics. And it's like, yeah, it's like I tell my contractors, they'll ask me a question sometimes, and I'll just put my hand on his shoulder and say, "Buddy, you're the expert, so use your best judgment. Don't ask me.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not a plumber."
Yeah, and that's what we're looking for. I mean, we get some investors who uh, kind of try to tell us what to do, maybe a bit too micromanagey about things, and they can get in their own way sometimes versus just
Mhm.
trusting the process. And you sound like you're somebody who understands it. They trust the process, and obviously has been, working out for you in the short term. Is there anything now that you've been running PPC with us for a few months, anything that has surprised you about the channel or working with us, or anything that you didn't expect?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very convenient. The leads just come over. Usually, once I see a lead come over, I'll give it a couple minutes because there's a short form on our website and then a long form. And I would say if you give them a couple minutes, usually that long form comes in right after. And then once I get that has the price that they want for the property on it, kind of all the details I really want to see, and then I'll call them, almost immediately after. I usually crack a joke with them, like, "Hey, I bet you didn't expect me to call this fast, did you?" And usually they'll start laughing. But it's just been extremely convenient. I like how you guys meet with us on a regular basis. We kind of go over all the leads, we look at everything, figure out ways we can improve. I think right now we're actually I'm working on getting some video testimonials uh, that will direct certain leads when they're searching certain keywords to a different landing page that will address some of the things that I think they're looking to have addressed in terms of us versus our competitors and what makes us different. And I just like that, I can kind of collaborate with you guys on stuff like this, and there's regular touch points. I find that very helpful.
Yeah, we kind of treat it as like a partnership in a way. A lot
Hmm.
of it's up to us, but there are things that you can do. It's like help us help you. There are things that
Yep.
you can do to make your results better, and you've been a great partner. And I think people approaching it with the collaborative partnership mindset often have the best results. I think you're really an ideal client of ours, and I'm excited to be chatting with you here. Um, okay, so I want to dive into the numbers a little bit. You said you did about like 9 deals. I have your stuff pulled up here on the back end here. So I know a lot of these maybe haven't officially closed yet, but do you know total expected profit just from what you have now, not from any future leads for what we have running down the pipeline here? Do you have that info?
Yeah, I'd have to. I know I sent you guys.
You did, yeah. I can add it up. Really, it looks like it's
If you
about
want to add it up, I don't have it in front of me.
215. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah,
I try
yeah,
to be kind of err on the conservative side with some of those. Obviously,
yep,
there could be unexpected things that pop up, but um, yeah, that
yep.
sounds right.
Okay, so with the 29 leads he got, we have 8 deals. 4 of them are flips, and 4 of them are listings
Yep.
through Keller Williams. So the listings will be, obviously a lower profit, 10 grand and under. But looking
Yep.
at the flips, average profit, we're looking at probably 40 or 50 grand
Yep.
for some of these. So in total, that's 215,000 roughly, expected. Things may happen. We can even just call it two, maybe.
Hmm.
In total ad spend you've been running just for a few months, your market isn't very big, so we've only spent, around like $6,000 in ad spend. Plus, you're paying us as well, so call it another four, maybe. So we'll call it 10 grand, so ish. So a little bit of napkin math, but spending 10 grand to make 200 grand, that's not a bad return. I would say that's
I
that's
can't
pretty
I
good.
can't complain. And my goal is yeah, I'd like to continue to spend more. We're trying to brush up our back end processes. We're making a lot of relationships with different contractors, and last year that was the biggest headache was the contracting piece of it.
Yeah.
Um, and now we found some guys that have done work for big national companies. Like one of my favorite contractor crews right now, he did like over 100 flips last year for I think a big national company,
Oh wow.
and
Okay.
um, and so I think it's when you're flipping the properties, like this is just one piece of it. Obviously, you got to I think in wholesaling it's disposition it's called. In,
Right.
in in flipping it's getting the work done, and that's so
Why
we're
people
we're
don't
trying
do
to
it.
make that as smooth as possible. Yeah.
That's the hard part. The actual work that you guys have is actually flipping the home and getting the. I imagine the hardest part of scaling to do 10 deals a month is the renovation piece of it, right? Is the contractors, the management, finding people who aren't going to flake and make sure
Putting
your fridge
scopes
isn't
of work
stolen.
together, making sure stuff is done in the right order, quality's up to par. We pull permits on everything, and we never want to get into a situation where typically we'll do an inspection on a house once we close on it, because my partner knows that when she lists it, that's probably what's going to happen. So we want to uncover anything major that an inspector would see when we sell the house and just address it right up front.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean that's a different business model, right? I mean, wholesaling is a lot, yeah, like you said, dispositions and stuff. And the benefit of what you're doing is easier to get deals, and obviously the profit per deal is pretty large, right? With flipping,
Hmm.
it's easier to get a good ROI with any marketing campaign when you're flipping everything, right? I want to make that very clear. So not 20x ROI is way above average that we see, but partially it lends to the business model that you're doing,
Yep.
which is really smart as well. So yeah, your campaign is doing really well. You're in a pretty small market. I think you're spending really like a couple grand a month. It's not that much. I was just looking at your campaign. There's some different metrics you can look at in Google Ads to determine how much you could spend. It's never an exact science. You kind of have to just test and see, but you could probably spend double what you're doing without seeing any diminishing returns. I think once you're probably spending more than 4, 5, 6 grand a month, your lead cost is just going to go up arbitrarily because you're going to be
Sure.
starting to rank number one, and it's being the number one spot. People tend to overbid, and your returns go down a little bit. So yeah, I think it's really working with you. The goal is to be like, how can we scale this up in a way that makes sense, that has the volume that you can handle, and making sure that you can handle the flips and stuff. So um,
Yep. And I totally plan on increasing our ad spend. Right now, our bottleneck is really the contractor side of it. So still making relationships there, and I
right,
think like giving the sellers the ability to list the house if that's what makes the most sense for them. It kind of obviously we don't make as much, but we're doing right by them, and that's what I tell our sellers is like, hey, like I'm happy not to make as much. Like I want a 5-star review at the end of this. And, so however that looks for you, whether you need us to front you money to move, or, if we do list it, like I'll give you an example. We just did a house. So we're full service realtors, and the house was kind of just in shambles. Like the bones were solid, but it was just full of crap. And, so we listed it. We paid a clean out company to go in there, remove everything. Then we had the photos done. And it actually ended up selling for over 4 times what one of our competitors had offered them for the property. And so we didn't make as much. We could have picked it up probably for less than twice what our competitors offered them and doubled our money with just a clean out. But their situation was not time sensitive, and that's what put the most money in their pocket. And so I think we did right by them, even though we didn't make as much. And I'm completely happy with that, because that's going to turn into a good review.
And I think it's amazing. I mean, especially wholesalers get a bad rap for that kind. And that's who you're competing against, right? For just trying to make as much money as possible, and scummy real estate investors and whatnot. And I think it's something that you should really emphasize in your brand as you're
Mhm.
shooting more brand videos, and even when you're doing testimonials, as you're trying to get video testimonials in. I think you should really, because your brand Ugly Duckling it's light, it's fun, it's playful, and I think you should really lean into that, and especially in testimonials, trying to guide the seller to mention specific words that represent your brand, like just want to do right by the seller, not trying to people over profit, like things like that. I think is really,
Yeah.
really important. It matches your brand image, and it can really help you. I think it is already one reason why your close rate is so good. Closing 1 out of 3 is really, really good. So I think doing more of that will just make it the sales even easier than they already are in the future. So something to keep in mind
Exactly.
as you're building out your brand. So I want to dive in a bit to the sales process, getting a bit granular with it. So closing 1 in 3, we tell investors on average they'll close between 1 out of 15 to 1 in 20, and you're a
Sure.
1 in 3. Now, if we're defining what a deal is, you are listing it, right? And a lot of
Mhm.
our investors don't list at all. So let's just even get rid of half of those.
Mhm.
So now you're at 1 in 6 instead of
Yep.
1 in 3, right? I think that's probably a bit more of a fair comparison, but even
Yep.
then, that's really, really good. That's in line with like some of our best closers that we have. So can you walk through what your process is? You touched on a little bit about the forms, but right when a lead fills out the form, what are the specific steps that you do to close that lead and get that deal?
Yeah, typically, like I said, I'll wait a couple minutes. Hopefully, I'll see that long form come in, and then I'll call them right away. Um, and I'll just say, "Hey, this is Nick with Ugly Duckling Houses. Just saw you filled out our form. A lot of times I'll crack that little joke, like, bet you didn't think I'd call you this fast, to kind of break the ice. And then, over the phone, I'll just say, so I'll tell them, like, my partner and I, we're both in real estate. She's one of the top realtors in Southeast Wisconsin. And I said, so typically, when we meet with you, we kind of figure out what your situation is. I'll ask them questions. Do you have a mortgage on the property? What's going on? Is this the house you live in? Is this like a deceased family member's house? Why don't you guys want to list it? And I'll try to get to the bottom of that, because usually if it makes sense for them to list it, like, then that's what we'll do, because that's what's going to put the most money in their pocket. Um, and if not, if we have this conversation and we figure out what's going on, like we just picked one up earlier this yesterday actually. The guy, he needed to move. He had medical issues. He needed money fast. He couldn't have people coming into his house.
Hmm.
And so we said, okay, we'll buy it. You can stay in the house a couple extra weeks or whatever. We kind of just ask questions, diagnose the situation, figure out what the best solution for them is. And then I explain to them, like, we figure out what the value of this property is going to be after repairs. We'll come to your house, figure out, get an estimate on how much those repairs are going to cost, and then we aim to make 10 to 20% per flip. And so I'm just completely transparent with them, and that usually disarms people. We'll get right when I'm on that first phone call, I'll get a time and place scheduled so we can come to the house and meet them and check it out, take some photos, walk through the house. And then typically once we leave, I'll put a scope of work together, an approximate scope of work. We'll get an idea of the ballpark cost for that. And then usually within a day or so, we give them, an offer over the phone or via text. And if they agree to it, we'll send over the offer to purchase and kind of schedule closing and get all the logistics figured out. When are we closing? Do you guys need post occupancy? Anything like that, we'll kind of address usually when we meet them in person, and and then yeah, we'll send the offer over with all those terms and stuff spelled out that we agree to.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay. And are you the one? So you're saying right when a form comes in, do you get like notified via email on your phone, or how do you even get? And are you the one handling all the phone calls?
Yeah, yep. So I'll get a text message as well as an email,
Yep.
and yeah, I'm usually the one that's calling. I don't think anyone else has called any of our website leads yet.
Gotcha, gotcha. I think it's very important. Some people, other companies have said, we'll handle all your leads for you. We'll be appointment setters and stuff. But are people who are getting results like you, where they're closing 1 in 6 or 1 in 8, anything under 1 in 10, or even just in general, like even the ones doing like 1 in 12, they're the ones that are either they're doing it or their top salespeople are doing it because the leads
Mhm.
are really high quality. And that's what you want. You don't want to outsource it. So in the future, as you scale up, that'll be something you'll have to figure out whether that you keep doing it or not. Obviously, if the more leads come in, it becomes harder. If you're on the job, you can't really get back to them as quickly or whatnot.
Mhm.
But I definitely would always have a top salesperson doing it and never outsource it to someone in overseas, especially like that. So it probably
Yeah,
helps that you have a
absolutely.
local accent. It's not a strong accent, but they could tell that you're local as well when they pick up. I think that does matter.
Yep, and it is
Um,
kind of a family thing, I guess. So and we did just close one recently, and she goes, "Are you guys family owned?" I said, "I guess so. I guess we're not married, but we've been together for a long time." So,
People like
um,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think, and just being transparent and like this is what we expect to earn, or this is our profit target. Sometimes it comes in higher, sometimes it comes in lower, but when you kind of estimate the cost per job, you can cushion it, or when you estimate the after repair value, you can cushion that as well. And sometimes it goes 30, 40 grand higher than
Right.
what you thought it would, and that's just pure profit in that case.
Gotcha. You guys have ever locked up? Do you lock up a fair amount of deals on the phone at all, or is it always like, okay, we take the call, we schedule the appointment, and then within a day after the appointment, then we make the offer? Is that like typically how it
Yeah,
always
because we
goes?
flip them, we
Yeah,
really want to lay eyes on it.
makes
Um,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, I was gonna say something, I just forgot it though. I'll
Yeah.
let you know if I think of it.
Cool. All good. Yeah. Do you have a like a follow up sales process at all, or is it kind of if they say no, you kind of just forget about them?
We have a CRM. I don't use it. My follow-up process is I just put stuff on my calendar and I just move it around.
Yeah.
So if I, so you like, honestly, every lead that I've spoken to, we've closed, or, or, or they decided not to sell the house,
Right.
you know,
Right.
or like we've had the opportunity to close it. Like I know a couple of weeks ago we went to, it was a family house, and the kids were trying to sell their mom's house, and the mom had dementia, and
Oh
she didn't
no.
know.
Yep.
And I think she caught wind of it. And then we were gonna buy it, and they said nope, she's not selling anymore. And I was like, well, how's this gonna work if she doesn't know?
They need the
And
guardianship papers. Yeah.
what's that?
They need like the papers, right? The guardian power of attorney stuff. If she actually has
Yep,
dementia, that's
exactly.
that's
But
tricky.
otherwise,
Those are
yeah,
tricky.
if
Yeah.
like we've had a few leads that come through and they never answer the phone,
Right.
and so with those people, I'll just kind of move them to a few days out. I'll try again, and if I try 6, 7 times, they don't answer. If I'm in the area, maybe I'll leave something in their door. Otherwise, after a good 7 times, I'll kind of just let them fall off, leave them a message, and just say, hey, if you're interested, give us a call back.
Gotcha. Is there anything else that you feel you guys do differently than your competitors to be able to? It sounds like you're getting most of the deals right off the bat. Do you feel that the leads that are calling you are also calling your competition? Do you feel like you have competition? And if so, what are you guys doing differently than them?
Yeah, they definitely are. I would say most people have talked to multiple cash investors. I honestly think like for your listeners, like partnering with a realtor, like a top realtor that knows how to close and knows how to run comps is extremely powerful. Because every person that has talked to multiple cash buyers has really given us the opportunity to buy before anyone else. Thankfully, I feel like most of the other big competitors in our area really lowball people, and it makes it easier for us to put in a fair cash offer and still make money. And I think a lot of people are, I know if you're wholesaling, you got to kind of lowball versus what, if you're actually flipping the property. Um, and so, but I do think having a realtor and bringing that as an option, like a full service realtor, where they'll go in, they'll clean stuff out, they'll stage the house. We can make minor repairs if needed. That's a very good tool in the arsenal to have in terms of increasing your close rate.
Do you think that most of your competitors are offering wholesale prices, and like the reason you're getting is strictly just because you're offering higher offers because you're flipping it yourself?
That's part of it. We hear like maybe we come off as more trustworthy. I think a lot of our competitors make offers sight unseen,
Right.
and when they start diving into it, they realize the sellers realize that there's actually a little bit some extra steps to it. Um, and so yeah, I think just going there, meeting them, explaining our process, being transparent, giving them options. That's I think really what sets us apart. And yeah, I think usually we are the highest offer, or we ask them, hey, what offer did you get? And then
Yeah.
we can figure out if we can go higher.
Do you guys have like a certain offer like tagline that you use? I see a lot of realtors, it's especially popular a few years ago, was like, if I can, it would be a realtor saying, "I'll list your house, and if I can't sell it, I'll buy it myself." Things like
Yeah.
that. Is that like marketing lingo that you guys use, or is that a bit different, or do you guys have a certain like, this is our like offer, our shtick that we use for people?
Yeah, I mean, so our tagline is fair, quack, and easy cash offers.
Oh
So
my gosh,
I said I want to get a box truck and replace the horn, so when you beep, it just goes quack, quack. Get it wrapped with our logo.
I love that.
I think stuff like funny stuff like that resonates with people. But I think this is what I was going to tell you before. We have done a couple deals with clients where we do basically like profit sharing with them on the back end,
Hmm.
almost like creative. And one client we just offered this to is we're picking up a house in Sturtevant, Wisconsin, and it's in a neighborhood where I think it used to be a swamp. And so, like a lot of the houses in this neighborhood have foundation issues. This particular house, the basement it's all covered, so you can't see the walls, and the sidewalk in front of the house you can tell is kind of sinking. And I think it's because the land out there it's a former swamp, and so that's something that we propose to him. Like, hey, we'll pick it up for this, and then we'll do a 10 or 20% profit sharing with you on the back end, just because we don't know the condition of this foundation. It appears good from the outside of the house, but we really have to kind of pull everything off on the inside to get a better idea. So that's I think getting creative like that can be very effective, and it's just another option. And I think if you come with all the options, you're more likely to get the deal done.
If you had to guess, what percent of the deals that you do, let's say of the 30, even this year of the, however many deals you did this year, what percentage of them ended up you closing because you had other options than strictly like, I'll flip it, here's my formula, and that's it. Either take it or leave it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just with these PPC leads, what do we say? Like half of them have been listings.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, and I'm not saying I think some of those we could have picked up for cheaper, probably two of them. But again, it's just doing the right thing by the person in their particular situation. Um, so if I had to put a percentage on it, maybe a
Yeah.
third.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
a
Gotcha.
third of
Gotcha.
the deals we would not have gotten if we didn't have some of these creative solutions.
Okay. Okay. Cool. 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 Well, I think we'll wrap it up here in a couple of minutes. Let me just see if I have any final questions for you here. Dude, I'm excited to follow you on your journey. I think what you're doing is amazing, and we'll see. I think there's a lot to learn about. I think, what's the exciting thing is I think there's even more opportunity for improvement in your probably sales and follow up system even now, so you could probably get even better results. And I think if I had to pinpoint one thing as to why you're closing so much better than other people, I think it's your brand. I think your brand is really, really good. And I also think it's it's your offer. Like you're offering multiple things. You have a full brokerage, which isn't something you can like some wholesaler who took a course can't replicate what you're doing because they don't know how to flip a home and they don't have a brokerage team with them. Right. So you have
Yep.
a competitive moat around you that allows you to be in some instances like unbeatable. Right. And I think
Mm.
that's really the strength of your business there. Would you agree with that? Or do you think there's any other thing that you guys do which you would consider your secret sauce or your key to success?
No, I definitely agree with that, and I think that's why we're converting as much as we do. It's just the expertise around this, all of the different options. I do want to really get into social media a bit more. It's not something I enjoy doing that much,
Yeah.
but it's something I think we're going to hire someone to help with, and really, like you said, just kind of put the brand out there and make us more of a known name. And I think yeah, we did get kind of lucky with the brand. When I was searching for names, I figured out basically every name you could think of was taken, and so I had to get creative, and that's what we landed on is Ugly Duckling Houses. But I do remember maybe a month or two ago, I spoke to someone. They go, "Oh yeah, I've heard of you guys," and in my head, I'm like, "No, you haven't."
It's literally brand new. Yeah. That's
you know,
awesome. That's awesome. Love
but
that.
it's
Yeah.
it's good though. That means the brand is resonating.
Yeah. And also like what does happen for other people who do other forms of marketing which you aren't doing, like postcards, direct mail. People, I read a stat. It's like 60% of people who get some type of offline advertisement will then go Google that company,
Sure.
and you're showing up for your competitors, right? Like you're targeting your competitors, you're targeting your own brand name. So you're going to get leads from your competition that they're paying for. They're paying someone to go basically Google, and then they're going to click on your ad and come to your website. I think that's really powerful. Um,
Yep.
so, do you have any final advice for not for beginners, but just for other investors who are trying to get to where you are? Doing 30 deals a year, especially flips. 30 flips a year is a lot, but even getting into that, I guess what revenue wise, what did you guys break last year in terms of revenue? Do you know the number off the top of your head?
Um, I think our average deal size was a little over 250,000 after repairs. Um, so it's at like 7 million.
Got you.
Or
Well, just in
no,
terms of company profits. So if you're,
company profits.
yeah, if you're averaging what, like 30 grand a flip or 40 grand a flip, you're doing probably 15. You think you're breaking seven figures?
I think we're close. Yeah, we were close to seven figures.
Yeah, you're like right on the
Yep.
line there. Yeah, yeah, this
Yep.
year for sure. This year
Yeah.
for
Yep.
sure. If you already did 200 just with PPC in basically one quarter, and that's not including everything else you're doing. So you could, in theory, add another, 600 to 700 grand in top line revenue just from PPC this year in a small market, which is crazy.
Yep. Yeah,
Um,
it's been extremely effective. And I think, yeah, this we were inefficient at a lot of things last year, and I think this year we're really ironing out a lot of the kinks, especially with the contracting piece of it.
right.
And just partnering with good crews that know what they're doing.
If you want to get to scaling it up to 10 deals a month, what's your plan to do that? Do you plan to expand your market or just expand your marketing channels in your current market?
I think expand the marketing channels in our current market, really leverage social media, maybe try to get some press, get some coverage on the news. Maybe we'll donate some money to a charity, kind of do a press release, um, and just kind of just get the name out there that hey, these guys are trustworthy, they're reliable, they won't try to rip you off, and they'll come to the table with multiple offerings. Um, and but yeah, right now, really the bottleneck is the contracting piece of it.
Right.
So we're continuing to develop those relationships and make sure we can scale on that piece of it. And once we can figure that piece of it out, then we can start to spend more on PPC and really invest in these different marketing channels. Maybe try postcards. I'd like to test it all out at some point.
Sure.
And oh my God, I'm sorry. Keep dropping my phone. Um, yeah, I'd like to test it all out and kind of get an ROI and figure out what works, what doesn't. Maybe um, postcards with retargeting and things like that.
Get a marketing
But
manager or something, potentially. You could test all that stuff out, tracking all of it and all that, right?
exactly, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. That's why we're in business, guys. it's
Yep.
it's a lot of work. So I'll leave you with this. Do you have any final advice for people, not people who are getting started, but people who are doing deals already and are just trying to get to that next level, or maybe even are doing PPC and they're wholesaling and maybe their results are okay, but they're not great. Like, what is your best piece of advice for other investors who are kind of in the intermediate stage?
Um, I mean, for me, it's just been being transparent, being honest with people. I think following the steps, kind of trusting the process. When we built our website, I provided all of the things that they requested. I created an About Us video. I got testimonials. I put our brand together, put the colors together, and just kind of just being, detail oriented. And then when you're talking to these people, just being transparent. That's what I like to do. And then you're never in a situation where you have to hide something, or you feel bad maybe about something. So yeah, I think just paying attention to the details, being transparent, trusting the process, and if you can bring more offerings to the table or scenarios that to kind of tailor a solution to a given client, that's going to help a lot.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm really respect what you're doing, and I'm excited to see where it goes, man. So thanks for taking the time for us today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Tim. Appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Nick. Take care.
Thank you.